So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Eazy Conversations. Thanks a lot to everyone who listened to the last episode featuring the homie Matt and I. Hope you enjoyed listening to us share some of our cooking habits and recipes. Go if you're in a tough spot. Hope you got to try some of those recipes, and looking forward to talking about that stuff again down the road. So now for episode 152 of Eazy Conversations, I'm extremely excited, of course, to be back in the studio virtually with the homie Matt. Say what's up to the people.
What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a great day right now. I'm very excited for today's episode. Something super relevant that just happened, and I'm gonna love looking back at re-listening to this in years to come and remembering this time right now because it's very exciting. Without further ado, Eric, why don't you tell the listeners what we're gonna be discussing right now?
Yeah, so for this episode, we're kind of at the point where every podcast season, if you will, we kind of do our yearly NHL mid-season report, kind of talk about where our teams are at. And obviously there's this massive tournament that took arguably the world by storm over the last few weeks. And so that would be the Four Nations Face-Off tournament. And I felt like it wouldn't be right to go over this stuff without bringing on resident hockey expert, multi-time guest. I actually forget how many times he's been on at this point. So without further ado, reintroducing to the podcast the homie Zach Saloom. Say what's up, people.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Psyched to be here. A little surprise pop-in. Talk about what we love, what the fam loves. Talk about some hockey. Let's go.
Yep. So as you all gathered by that reaction, Matt did not know Zach was going to be part of this. So super happy to get into it with you, Zach and Matt, to go over the Four Nations face-off and then, talk about the NHL season in general. But we're going to start there, international hockey. I want to tee the Four Nations face-off off by just talking about what were your expectations going into this tournament and how it progressed over the tournament. Because for me personally, when this was announced at the start of the year, I quite literally did not care about it at all. They're doing mock projections of the roster saying, oh, this player's just on the bubble. They'll really be pushing this year to make it on to the Four Nations roster. And I really thought they were kind of blowing this out of proportion, that the players didn't care that much. It was just another made-up tournament. But it really became something so much bigger than that. So I just want to know, were you guys kind of on the same wave as me going into the season with this tournament, and then did that change over time? Because I definitely got more excited about it as we got closer to it. I also want to say that. Zach?
So I wouldn't go as far as you saying I didn't care about it. I was still definitely excited just because of the sheer fact that it was going to be the best on best. So at least we were going to see those line connections of, all right, we're going to have McDavid on the same team with McKinnon and Crosby, just to name a few. So just with that, even if they weren't going 110 miles an hour, I was still excited about it because just that fact alone was extremely cool, something we haven't seen ever. But then as the season went on, I didn't really think about it, to be honest. Randomly it'd be on screen Four Nations, remember. I feel like the most that you heard about it was just how ridiculously priced the tickets were, and that was a main focus point about the tournament. It's oh man, I don't even know who's going to be going to these games. It's going to be $800 a ticket minimum, blah blah blah. So then I was just okay, whatever. And the season was really exciting, so I'm all right, that's all my focus was. It wasn't until the first game where I'm wow, this is it. Yeah. This is insane. And honestly, I don't think it could have been more fitting that, it's funny, actually, the three players I named were all involved in the first goal of the tournament. Yeah. That in what?
Not
even a minute in the game? That just set the tone right there. You're wow, am I reading this? Or did I just witness a pass to McDavid, to Crosby, McKinnon, power play goal? Yeah. It just set the tone right there. And holy, were we in for a treat after that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Matt, what about you? What was your take, season-wide progress towards the build-up of the actual tournament?
I was a lot like you, Eric. Well, first of all, Zach, great to see you. Totally caught off guard by this. And as soon as you started talking, Eric, I'm oh, shit, he brought Zach along. That was a nice surprise. I like that. Thank you for coming on, Zach. It's gonna be an even better episode now. I was like you, Eric. I wasn't super excited. Honestly, I think what helped this tournament and our like Canada USA rivalry was like all the political and background stuff going on, and it just made the stakes were even higher for this tournament, just like because of the whole Canada USA quote unquote tension going on right now. I don't think there's anything too serious, but we'll see. Anyways, that added more stakes and more like we got to beat this American team. And freaking Sweden and Finland's no slouch either. But like I got more excited because of that, because of like the stuff going on politically. Yeah, great hockey. I didn't expect it to be this good, but like why wouldn't we when it's the best on best? I don't know. It felt like watching super intense playoff games to me. And yeah, you guys said it all. I was just not very excited at first. And then as we went along, I'm like, oh my God, like it's more than just hockey right now. It's just about like Canada, USA. Like, I feel like people who don't watch hockey or the NHL, like we're aware of this going on right now. And like, even the news outlets were talking about the game, like American channels that don't normally cover hockey were like, they're like bringing attention to the game. And yeah, anyways, I enjoyed watching it immensely. And
Yeah, no, this for sure did become, like you said, bigger than just hockey, right, with the political angle. I agree. Like, I think me watching the two games against Americans, the hate I felt for the Americans was so strong. But I do think, honestly, even if this wasn't going on in the world, I still would have had the same. It could just, that hockey, international hockey just brings that out of me regardless. Like at the World Juniors every single year, I always desperately want Canada to beat the U.S. And unfortunately, the last few years, we haven't really been able to do that or do as well as them in these tournaments. That's why I think also going into this tournament, as we got closer to it, and with, like you said, Matt, everything going on in the world, this became such an important must win because they're talking about on the news, like this was like a, if we, like we're just going to beat our 51st, like I don't even want to say it with these sentences really, but no one needed this win more than Canada. So happy that we got it. And well, before we get to the finals and everything there, we can go through the games quickly, but the game against the States on Saturday, yes, on Saturday. Yeah. Are we ever going to see that again where within the first 10 seconds of a game, there's 3 heated fights between bitter rivals? Like that's, for me, that's one of the most electric, even though unfortunately I didn't get to see it live. I caught the replay. I do think that is something that, while, like Matt, you said, we'll talk about the future of this tournament. International hockey, they don't allow fights really, and the Four Nations Cup is such a weird little made-up tournament that this could fly, where the players weren't suspended for the rest of the tournament. So I don't think we're going to see this again. Like this kind of first 10 seconds, 3 fights in a game was just electric.
No, definitely not. And yeah, just because of the tournament and the way it was formatted, it was just NHL rules. So that's why they're like, all right, it's just the same thing as if you're playing a regular season game. So you fight 5 minutes, you're back. But 100% we're not going to see this in a normal sporting event or a normal hockey game. Like even in the playoffs, you can't have 3 guys start a game with a fight. No. That's never going to happen. You don't have those emotions in even like the Stanley Cup Finals. Like that just wouldn't happen just because the stakes are a little different in those types of games. Whereas here, you could just see the raw emotion. Like, they couldn't even focus. Brady, while he was watching his brother in the fight, wanted to join the fight. The refs had to pull him back like 5 times. And he's just yelling at the entire bench, calling out Bennett, like, we're going next. Like, crazy. We're never going to see that again. And if anybody thought that the Thursday night game in the finals, that there was going to be another fight, like, you had to be out of your mind. This game was way too important. Nobody could be in the box for that long. And these guys are all stars. In a normal round robin game, it's okay. The emotion, everything was going, so it was fine. But after that, you're like, we're never going to see this again. And I'm so happy. I remember I was walking into McLaren Saturday night as the fight was going on. I'm like looking at the time. I'm like, is this like 5 minutes in the game? No, it's 2 seconds into the game. There were hundreds of people at the bar, everyone wearing like Canadian jerseys and losing their minds. Holy, what an energy. And just like throughout the nation, I can only imagine that energy being reciprocated in bars, houses, everywhere. So it's just so cool. Such a cool thing that usually at this time of the year it's a snooze fest. We're watching Nikita Kucherov drunk on the ice trying to skate down the ice. Like, I saw a tweet and I was dying. Somebody we should thank Nikita Kucherov for this tournament because he was so embarrassingly didn't give a shit about his performance that they're all right, we got to do something, and we just got the best product.
Yeah.
In the last decade, if not more. Crazy.
Yeah, as of recording, 1 week ago tonight, I was excited for the Canada-US game, but that just woke me right up. I was a little tired. I had a couple of beverages in me already, and we'll never see that again. And that was probably the best opening to a hockey game I've ever seen, honestly. As soon as Matthew fought, I'm like, oh my God, Brady's gonna fight next. Yeah. He was like a rabid dog out there being held back. I still love Brady. Honestly, I've loved Brady the whole tournament. I'm a Sens guy first. Well, I love Team Canada, but I bleed Ottawa, so it was good to see our captain like that. But just wild. I felt Miller Parayko could have been he was such a nice guy.
I know.
He got killed the other guy.
Yeah,
but I hear that about Parayko, right? So disappointing outcome last Saturday. But I honestly didn't hate that because it's hard to beat the same team twice, right? And then Canada would use that as fuel in the Thursday night finals game. It was this was the first game against Sweden. I was like, all right, we're getting OT win, we'll take it. And then I was looking at the American. Do we want to talk about the rosters for a second? Is that the best American team we've ever seen, guys? What do you guys think?
So obviously it's been so long since we've had Olympic hockey. I'd have to dissect the older rosters, but I think so. In recent history, anyways, you look at those guys skill wise, and I do think we do have to give the Americans some props that they are coming. Their top end talent is elite. I do think on paper it looked maybe a little better than it actually ended up being. You look at a guy, for example, Jack Hughes was horrible for the States. He's a guy that he should have been a lot better, was quite literally a boy amongst men out there in obviously a bad way. But skill-wise up front, so many dogs. Their decor, I thought on paper was much stronger than ours. Might have even played better. And then obviously the goaltending as well. Their three goalies on paper, again, are better than ours. But in the biggest moment of all, Binner stood tall and got it done for us. But yeah, the Americans have so much talent that you can't really ignore. And the Kachucks, it was a big breakout tournament for them too. On a national stage, they're now household names everywhere. And again, back to Brady, he truly stepped up. I thought he was a standout on the ice. I was not cheering for him. I was mad when he scored in that gold medal game. But as a Sens fan, like you said, Matt, it is a nice glimmer of this is what this guy's going to bring in the playoffs when we get there. And it was amazing to watch it from that perspective. I hate it as a Canada fan, but as a Sens fan, all right, when we get to the playoffs, this guy's going to be leading from the front. We already knew he would. Exactly. We've talked about this so many times, and this is our first time actually seeing it. It was great. But yeah, no, Americans had an amazing roster. A few guys kind of underperformed in my opinion, but that's kind of inevitable. You can't have everybody firing on all cylinders in a tournament like this. And like you, Matt, I agree. I was mad we lost that Saturday game, but ultimately, like you said, bulletin board material. They think they got us, that they have our number. Let's win when it actually matters, and that's exactly what we did.
No, absolutely. And yeah, we could really dissect the American team because it is fascinating how much skill they had, but at the same time, a lot of those skilled players, like you said, so you mentioned Jack Hughes, great point. I wanted to talk about him too. But then you look at a guy like Kyle Connor, who's a healthy scratch in the finals because he was playing so poorly during the tournament. So that's crazy. A guy who's almost a 40 goal scorer every year.
Yeah.
In that number, in that range every year. And it wasn't even a bad decision not to play him because he was playing that poorly.
You think? I would have scratched Nelson. I can't believe that. Nelson looked horrible in my opinion.
You know what? He actually scared me a few times.
What?
He had some looks. No, he's
okay.
a sleeper.
I'd have missed that.
Don't get me wrong. He's off the team next year. We'll get into that later. But he wasn't. I didn't think he was the worst player. There's so many moments for where people really stood out in a negative way. You can look like a guy like Captain Austin Matthews. He had very few good moments in the tournament. I watched every game, whether Canada was playing or not, and he was just extremely underwhelming. Not to just focus on the negatives. I mean, it's a USA, so I'll focus on all the negatives. Why not?
Yeah.
Fox, extremely disappointing. He might have
brutal.
played himself off the U.S. team for the Olympics. In my opinion, he was
Wow.
atrocious.
It was horrible.
Like, you're supposed to be, and it also reflects his season, by the way. He's been terrible all year, but his play is just, there's no confidence. I don't even know what he's supposed to be right now. Like, I don't know if you are an offensive guy. You're definitely not defensive because he was making turnovers left, right, and center. So he was super underwhelming, which is great as a Canadian.
Yeah.
And then Hannafin was useless.
Yeah.
Like, I understand you're a big skater. You should be able to be, like, kind of two-way. He wasn't at all. I don't even know if he was good defensively. Like, thankfully, again, these two were playing together, and they looked horrible out there. Both of them played themselves off the team because Sanderson came in and played, as us Sens fan know, unbelievable. The guy's a stud. Gross. And then you get Hughes coming back and McAvoy. So, like, those two guys are out. All those guys are coming back in. But, yeah, that decor is disgusting. And honestly, I think their best player this tournament, who also led the Four Nations in points, was Zach Werenski.
Okay.
6 assists in 4 games. He's the whole year. He's been if there was a trophy for this, like in the NFL, comeback player of the year, has to be Werenski. This guy could win the Norris. I doubt it. Tough to do against when you got Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes, two like legends of the game. But Werenski just put on a clinic, and now he's been doing it on a so-so Columbus team that obviously is playing unbelievably out of this world. But now with the best players in the world, he just showed how skilled, and he can do it all, not just offensively but defensively. Zach Werenski was the standout American player at this tournament.
Do you want to jump in, Mike? I have a quick thought on this.
Yeah, just quickly, what I noticed was like game 1 against the USA, like McAvoy was like a wrecking ball out there, playing really well for them. Like him not being in the finals, like that really helped us. And his physical game's amazing.
Yeah.
And I noticed a lot of the American stars were absent. Like Hughes maybe playing on the wing didn't help, but like this happens to every team, right? Too many centers, people have to play on the wing.
Yeah.
But yeah, just quickly that I noticed. I kind of want to get into if we're done on the Americans, like who shouldn't be there for Team Canada and who excelled. Do we want to get into that? Do we want to close out the Americans?
Yeah,
or
and one last
what do you
thing
think?
to
What do
say.
you guys? Yeah, what do you guys think of Hellebuck in the finals? Just quickly, like couple soft goals. Like I heard on the news, like he's not a good reactionary goalie, like athletic agility wise. He's more like positionally strong. Or what are your thoughts on Hellebuck?
Okay, so I'm not a goalie expert. It's gonna be tough to criticize if he was playing well or not. I will say I like the adjustments that we made as a team, where we're trying to just chip pucks behind their D, because in the first game they were really just keeping us to the outside and we're trying to cut in. They gave us nothing in that first game, so kudos to them. And I kind of want to use that. So I don't know if the goals on him were bad, to be honest. Like McDavid, the golden goal, he was all on the slot, ripped it top cheese. McKinnon let a shot go from close to the point, a lot of traffic. And then Bennett made a nice tuck short side. Like he maybe was faking going to the backhand. I don't know if like those are goals he wants back. It's hard to say. In my mind, they're nice goals. What I want to say on the the last thing I want to say, which I'm surprised you didn't bring up on the decor, is I thought Slavin and Faber were unbelievable for the States. Yeah. And arguably Slavin was their best player. Like I think he looked unreal, where now I'd have to look at the stats and everything, but I don't think he got scored on the whole tournament, he and Faber. Maybe they did, but they were shutting guys down and moving the puck seamlessly out of their zone. Like I hate to give the States credit here, but those two I think are locks on the Olympics, and in the big moments in the game in their zone, if they're defending a lead, Slavin and Faber on the ice. And Slavin's a wily vet, like he's in his 30s now, and Faber is like 22, 23 years old, but looks like he's in his 30s the way he plays. He's like a mini McAvoy kind of.
Yeah.
Like they have a similar build. I mean,
But
he's
no,
a chubbier,
just-
like thicker guy, I would say. Faber.
McAvoy
Is. Faber. I don't know. Faber reminds me of him in that sense, but maybe not as
a
much.
player, I agree, but not build size. Like McAvoy, like we talked about, is physical as hell. But anyways, I'll let you finish because you made me think of a lot of good points.
Yeah, so that's kind of it on them, really. Like, Slavin in the gold medal game saved the U.S. They stopped them multiple times where I thought we had tap-ins. I remember there was a cross-crease pass to Crosby at an open net. Slavin got his stick on it, knocked it off. I was absolutely screaming at the TV, like waking up the neighbors. They hated me. They wanted me dead on Thursday night. But you know what? We're pretty good neighbors. Then we're not too loud over here. So this was the one time that had to let them know we're cheering for Canada here. And yeah, so that's the props I want to give there. Hellebuck though, like he for sure compared to Binnington was not as clutch. Where Binnington, I thought the game was over a few times in overtime. Like, Matthews had a couple of good chances. Well, I agree, not the best tournament for him. I do think he played pretty well in that last game. But other than that, I don't see how you give that guy the C in the Olympics. I think it's Brady's or Matthews' team or Kachuk's team, to be honest, or Quinn Hughes. But yeah, so Binnington was superior to Hellebuck in that regard. He plays like maybe a more nerve-wracking game where he's always moving around. I think that's the difference between Hellebuck and Binnington. Is Hellebuck is more just steady in the net, and Binnington's flailing around like a young Tim Thomas out there. And it worked out for us in this game. Stressful to watch, but electric when it works out.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'll just bookend the U.S. too. Yeah, thanks for bringing those two Ds up because they were outstanding. I'll still give the edge for Werenski just because the two-way play, but no, Slavin literally saved 3 goals in the finals by himself, and he did it all tournament. And yes, those two together. I knew I was forgetting somebody on the D-core, and those two are 100% their shut. Like the pairs for U.S. for the Olympics should be Werenski, Sanderson, and McAvoy, Hughes, Slavin, Faber. That is the disgusting defensive core. Those 6D right there.
That's scary.
It's extremely scary. Like, it's not scary as in it could end us.
No.
Like we just saw. Anyways, but it's so good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely great props to those two D. And, yeah, like you said, Faber and Sanderson, they're only 22 years old. So it's pretty crazy how good they are at that age when that poise on the back end. And the last player I want to put on notice for the U.S., if there is ever a doubt who their number one center is, it should be as obvious as ever now. Jack Eichel is disgusting.
Yeah.
He is so good.
Yeah.
There is no debate. I know I'm biased because I've always hated Matthews, but still, you watch this tournament, you've watched Eichel in the playoffs, he's just, he has it. He's the guy.
Yeah.
Like, when it was Eichel with the two Kachuk brothers throughout the most of the tournament, they were just buzzing. And I think Sullivan was like, okay, I need to find a way to get Matthews going. I need to put him with the Kachuk brothers. Yeah. And then that's when he started playing good in the finals because Eichel can drive his own line. That's how good he is. Yeah. He is their number one centerman. I don't think there's a debate for the Americans.
Agreed.
And if you want to go with like an older skilled guy to be your captain, he's the captain, even though I think it should be Brady. But and for Hellebuck's sake, all 4 of the Canadian goals, including Saturday night's game, were all top right or top left. So I don't know. I'm no goalie expert. Maybe that was something that the Canadians talked about. Like, hey, because Bennett, I think, knew right away as he got that puck that he was going short side high. McDavid, it was on and off top right within seconds. McKinnon's goal was more of it's just smart IQ play. Like, all right, there's a ton of traffic, Stone, big body in front of the net. Like, there's just so much going on, so you flick it high. Perfect. But I think it was a conversation within the team. We can beat this guy high because that's how all 4 of the goals went in.
Good point.
But I think that covers the American.
I was going to say, we're wearing Canada jerseys out here if you're watching on YouTube. We've talked about the Americans, good and bad, far enough. Matt, what about you? Like, Canada, who are your biggest standouts? Like, who impressed you this tournament? What are your thoughts on the Canadian roster in general?
Well, Team Canada, always have the same questions every year. Who's going to be our goalie? We know where you have good forwards. Who's going to have to take a step back and, like, play on the wing? Well, my question with Canada, it always happens every year we have to form a team, is, like, which veterans do we bring in? But are we bringing in too many old guys, too many veterans? Like, should Marchand be playing? Like stuff like that. Questions like that I ask myself. Even Stone has great hands, but like his speed isn't the same as the other guys. Do we bring in more people like the Hagels and Konechny's, the guys with more grind in their game? I'm never worried about our D-core. We have very talented, but our D-core, like, do we want too many offensive guys? Do we just want one or two? Like, do we go for more players like Faber or Slavin, or do we go more Morrissey, Makar? Makar is in a league of his own, but like guys like Morrissey. This tournament's answered a lot of questions. Like Binnington, stellar job in the finals. Like he's answering questions for next year in the Olympics, like who's going to be our goalie. I honestly, what I've taken away is players like Marchand and stuff. I think it's time to step down from the international stage. Like I think we have younger talent coming, and I think we should go more for speed and as opposed to like having too many veterans. Like I don't know about you guys, but like Crosby, I watched half the games. Like Crosby didn't look like the Crosby we know and love. Like he was a little like slower and not as like McKinnon and McDavid-esque, right, guys? Like those are just my first immediate thoughts. I'll let you guys elaborate since you guys have actually watched every game. I was working nights a lot. I'm working on nights now, so I only watch half the games.
So I like your take on the roster construction changes. Like for me too, Stone wasn't really someone I was really a fan of this, especially riding shotgun to McDavid for a lot of the tournament. I didn't understand that decision. Slow boots, like maybe you throw him on the fourth line or the penalty kill, but even at that, like that's not really what you want out of a fourth liner anyways. So I don't really know if there's a place for Stone on this team. I think he's kind of just earned that out of respect maybe and experience, but he's someone I look at as like, man, you're not a lock on the Olympics. Marchand, kind of the same, but he at least can play fast, still has speed and grit. Like he can be a fourth line guy for us with a guy like Hagel, Konechny, Jarvis, who I like those kind of guys on our team going forward. I feel like Konechny would have been nice to get him in the gold game. I don't know why he wasn't playing personally. But then it's like, who else is coming up? Like maybe a Scheifele as a center to replace like, I don't know who. Hey, Cirelli? Like, I wasn't that crazy about Cirelli personally.
I've been waiting for you to tell who I think is off, and he was number one.
So, but to the Crosby point though, I still like he's on the team for sure until he can't skate anymore because he did play. I think in the first game against Sweden, he was a big factor. Obviously, he got 3 primary assists, so you can't take that away from him yet. But yeah, in the big moments, he wasn't really the guy. There was a passing of the torch to McKinnon and McDavid, which is a long time coming. They stepped up in the big moments. Like McDavid admittedly even said he didn't have the best game in the finals, but what are we going to remember? It's that he scored the gold medal winning goal. So who cares what he did or didn't do in the finals? And then Makar obviously is. That's the thing. I feel like we have the 4. Maybe Crosby's not one of the best players in the world anymore, but we have 3 of the best players, if not the 3 best players. And those guys, they showed up big for us. And like, man, Makar, every time he's on the ice, he's like, he's playing on easy mode for him. Even if he doesn't generate an actual scoring chance, he'll turn around. They can't knock the puck off him. It's insane what this guy was doing.
He's in a league of his own. He's like 100%. It's a game. Like it's like you said, easy mode. However you want to describe it. The puck's on his stick. He's thinking 4 plays before anybody else is thinking of 1. But I'll get to the D and what I think of them. There's just so many things that we can talk about. So I'm trying to just like, all right, I'll just start with the forwards. Definitely on the same page as you guys when it comes to the older guys on the team, the older wingers, just based off speed. I will quickly mention for Crosby, I think a lot of people forget the week and a half, if not 2 weeks before the tournament, he was injured. Yeah. So he was 100% still injured playing this tournament. You could see that something was bothering him. So if he's 100%, he's even better than what we just saw, and he was still a really good player for us because Sidney Crosby, the guy, is the GOAT.
37 years old, too. Like, he's playing at this level, unreal.
And then, like Stone, I think Stone's done. He was good when he had to be. Wasn't great. Also important to note, next year Olympic size ice is much bigger, so Stone is an automatic off the team. with all due respect, but it's just like
Yeah.
he was good, but not
Yeah.
good enough. And like the skating's the biggest thing on those rinks, and he can't be there. So, and then you look at Marchand. The thing about Marchand, so if we're already taking Stone off, which is a winger, and we take Marchand off, who is taking those spots? And if they're similar players, if like maybe even a hair better, you still take Marchand just because of what he's been through. Stanley Cup winner. He's been on the World Cup now with 4 nations. So it's like, do you just take a kid just because he's younger? Or you take a wily veteran like Marchand, who everybody loves when he's on their team. He's a great glue guy, leadership. Like, he brings too many intangibles that unless there's somebody, and we're only talking about in 1 year,
Yeah.
comes out, not out of nowhere, but someone comes in like, all right, has to be on the team. Well, we've agreed that Stone should be off, so that's one spot. Even if Marchand's a healthy scratch some games, I think you still bring him for those reasons, unless there's someone obviously who can take his spot. Like, I'm not taking Hyman over Marchand.
I was gonna say Hyman. That's the first name that
Yeah.
came to mind.
So I was like, I have a few other like players that I'm thinking, like Bedard, unless he starts the next year, like Celebrini too, like those two, unless they start next year, like wow, they're playing like McDavid was playing when he was 19 years old or 20. Like, they're gonna have to fight really hard to make an impression and be on that team. I don't think Jarvis is a lock to be on the team next year.
Agreed.
I think he played good in the tournament, not great. So he still has to prove himself to come back. But I will say, I hate the fact that Sorelli was on the team. When you're brought in, like everyone, he's the best shutdown forward in the world or blah, blah, blah. But he, 4 games played, 0 points, -3. Go fuck off. Like, you can't be the specialist and that's your tournament stats. Like, I'm sorry. I know it's a plus minus is not the end of the world, but it definitely says something if that's your role and you can't live up to it.
Yeah.
I definitely think when we're looking at the rest of the bottom 6, if you will, Bennett, so clutch.
Oh, yeah,
like
big
obviously got one of the biggest goals in the tournament, but like even before that goal, he was playing unbelievable. His physicality is just so important, but he's also skilled, like that goal in other plays. So that's no brainer. He's coming back. I really like Hagel. I remember sitting here. I don't know which pod, but I was chirping the hell out of Hagel.
I think I was hyping him up, actually.
Yeah, you probably were. And I was like, this guy's overrated, blah, blah, blah. I've never felt like more of an idiot. I think instantly after I said that, I watched more of their games in the playoffs. I'm like, this guy's sick. He's a dog. And he needs to stay on Team Canada. Him in point, or you put him with who, like, he was stuck with Sorelli the whole tournament. Like, I've never felt more bad for a player.
Yeah.
I wanted Hagel with McDavid at one point. I
Honestly,
think he could have played with him.
Yeah,
like,
he could play with
He has
anybody.
the speed, or with McKinnon. Like, I think he should have had a look in the top 6. I just want to think, like, other wingers, like, young-ish guys. Like, is Lafreniere a potential?
Lafreniere's a potential.
Like, because he would be an energy guy, get him in the bottom 6.
And he's a lefty who could
skate.
take, like, a Marchand or a Stone spot, because Stone often plays on the left side. I was thinking of, like, a Wyatt Johnson. He's got crazy skill. But I definitely think that Scheifele should take Sorelli's spot. Like, I don't think you need defensive forwards. All these elite players can play defensively too. Like, they're not just liabilities. They're centermans in the NHL, number 1 centermans. They know how to play 200-foot hockey. So I think not having Scheifele in the middle on that. Like, imagine if it was Scheifele, Hagel, and Marner, who played there for most of the tournament until he got bumped back up with McDavid. That would have been a way better line than having Sorelli there.
Yeah.
So just stuff like that where I think we can improve for the Olympics team. Because other than that, I believe Konechny should come back. I think he'll have a bigger role again on an Olympic-sized rink where he just flat out wheels. He's got a dog and he's got skill, kind of like a Bennett. Like when they were playing together, it was so much fun to watch. I think that's basically my rundown, because all the other guys are untouchable in the tops. Like, you got your McKinnons, McDavids, Reinhardt even.
Man, Reinhardt was kind of underwhelming me, to be honest. Like, so slow out there, and he didn't generate anything.
So he's a sneaky, super intelligent player.
Oh, I know, of course.
No, but like, it's not flashy. Like, he still wound up, I think, with like 4 or 5 assists. Like, he just makes a lot of little, like, really smart little plays, anticipating where the puck's gonna be, and stops their breakout, and then it comes back to our point, shot on net, goal. Like simple things like that you don't really appreciate. I will agree that I thought he could have scored more because he's been scoring a lot and like he missed a lot of chances, but I still think he has an elite high IQ that puts him in a category where he can't be off the team.
No, so I wasn't saying he's off the team. I'm just saying he was underwhelming to me in this tournament.
Yeah.
That's my take on him.
And okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't really have anything else to say. The last forward I want to touch on, who I was extremely mad about most of the tournament, was Marner. He was very underwhelming. Like, even in the first game where he scored the OT, I thought he was horrible that game. He got the OT winner. I'm like, all right, good. And then the rest of the tournament, I thought he was one of our worst players, not only forward. And I was admittedly mad that he was in the lineup. I knew they weren't going to scratch him, but I was like, honestly, you could have taken him out because he was playing that poorly. But he just goes to show, him too, incredibly smart, incredible skill. He can be a game changer, and he was in the finals, 100%. Again, back to hockey IQ, something that, like, the first goal that he assisted on, Bennett's goal, the way he takes that puck, cuts in the middle, slows it down, opens that seam for Bennett. Not like skill and IQ so high, and the game-winning goal, like, it wasn't just a fluke that when the puck went to Makar and Makar looked up, didn't have any other options. Like, as this good of a D, he knows, all right, Marner's still in that far corner, and Marner also knew, hey, how can I be an option? It's not just a fluke that he was in that far corner. Clearly there was some kind of communication, just like in their heads. They're like, this is how you do it. Smart plays, waiting for it, head up. Like, he really brought it in the finals when it most mattered. So
Definitely.
That's why you need guys like that who, although at times I was really, really mad at him, he looked horrible out there, he just helped us at 100% level win that tournament.
Yeah, no, well said. It's a good breakdown. I think forwards were all good here. On the D side, there's two names I want to highlight. One who I thought, especially in the absence of Makar, was very, I think, solid defensively the whole tournament, but he was even trying some stuff offensively well. Devon Tays looked really good, I found. Like, he was, without Makar, stepped up, and then when he was there, the chemistry between those two is just all-time. He's obviously a lock in the Olympics. Yeah. And the other guy is someone who was, I think, a last-minute add-on was Thomas Harley.
Unbelievable.
He looked unreal out there. Like, every single game, he played 2 games, I think. He looked so good. Travis Sanheim, get the hell out of this team.
Yeah.
Harley is a regular going forward. Man, like, he too would make just subtle little plays, like a head fake, a little drop here and there. He ended up with at least 2 assists, I want to say, and would want to say, anyways.
Whatever.
He looked like he was generating scoring chances, and was making just nice plays, getting the puck through to the net, generating offense, and was not a liability defensively at all. So Harley is someone that I think you seriously consider for the Olympic roster going forward. Matt, I know that's your boy in fantasy. Any thoughts on TH?
I was gonna bring him up if you weren't. I know how solid he is in the fantasy league. Like, he's rarely a minus. He's a very reliable player. I went to the Ottawa Dallas game last year, and it was great. Or in January, and he's very solid. I like our decor a lot, actually. Didn't really know who Sanheim was. Like, knew the name. Plays for Philly. Like, nothing impressive. Parayko, more of a veteran now. Liked him a lot. I thought he was super solid. I saw Parayko. I was sitting behind the bench last year at Ottawa St. Louis, and I just saw how large he was and the dynamic with him on the bench. Like, he's a leader out there, talks a lot. But no, I thought our decor was good. Morrissey, I want to ask you guys on him. Like, is a Morrissey? Do we go more like a player like Harley or Morrissey in the future? Like, for the Olympics, we'll say next year. Like, do we go offense or do we go more reliable defensively? Because that's a big topic of debate. I know we have Makar for the power play. We don't need Morris. Well, maybe power play unit 2. But like, what did you guys think of Morrissey? What do you think of Morrissey's play, Zach?
I thought he was underwhelming in the tournament, but I do think he is one of our best defensemen usually. Like, when you watch Winnipeg play, he carries that team very well from the back end. He's their best. And usually he finishes in like the top 5, top 8 voting of Norris consistently. I just think he had an off tournament. And like when he fell with an illness at the end of the tournament, it made me think he probably had something the whole tournament as well.
Yeah.
But I will say, I think Harley's a lock now. He was unbelievable. I think it'd be between them two to fight over that third pair left slot, because they're both left-handed D, so that would be Thomas Harley and Josh Morrissey, because we lost Theodore the first period of the tournament, and he's a lock top 4D. He's unbelievable. Like, he could be on the second power play unit without a question. Like, he's I think he has like just under a point a game. Like, maybe he's like .80 points per game this year. Like, he's a unbelievable defenseman that we lost right away, that we kind of forget about because we just have that good of a core. Sanheim wasn't like horrible by any means, but definitely didn't play good enough. Like, Harley outshined him, and Harley only played against the U.S. the 2 toughest games, and he played that good.
True.
So definitely played him away. I think in the top 7. I don't know if he'll be starter for Team Canada, but I also don't know if they'll go back with Doughty next year. He was good, kind of dated himself at times. I mean,
He was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he looked shaky sometimes, like whiffing on passes. And I get it. He's only played 10 games all year. You got to kind of give him a pass, but I don't know. Like, I was looking at him like, you're looking a bit washed out there.
Yeah, like that's fair for sure. Like, that's why I don't think he's. Well, I mean, he wasn't on the team, right? So there's a reason, and I think it gave like an opening for like a Uyghur if he starts off really good next year, because I know he was in the talk of potentially taking that spot when Pietrangelo was out. I haven't watched enough Vegas to know if Petro's a lock on the team next year or not. I mean, honestly, Hockey Canada might say go fuck yourself.
I was gonna say, like, him refusing to report here, I feel like is maybe crossing the line of it. You know what? We don't want you.
Exactly.
When it really, if you think this doesn't matter, well, we don't want you when in your mind is the only time that it actually matters, because this mattered to us and you didn't show up.
So I think the right side definitely has some opening for Team Canada. It's just, again, like, as we were looking at who could potentially take Pietrangelo's spot, it was like Doughty, Uyghur, like Bouchard. I was just gonna say, don't even mention that name. We're talking about liabilities, and on an Olympics, it's just enough. Like, that guy's not on the team, and if he is, I'll be shocked. I'm trying to think if there's younger D's that like we're slipping on. Like, I don't think Shabbat's making the team. Like, he's not.
And
he's
even
not
to Matt's point about like defensive D's, right? Like, are there even that many good options out there? Like, if you're looking at
Chris Tanev, I don't think he's good enough.
No.
Not at all.
He might be coming off hip surgery next year,
exactly.
so I don't know about that.
No, that's something that next year they're going to be more fighting opportunities
Power,
for.
do you think he gets a look?
You know what? If he, again, that'll be huge for him next year how he plays, because he's like, you don't get too many 6'5" defensemen that know how to handle a puck, move the puck properly, still skate very well. Yeah,
he could be. I think they could look to him to be like a kind of defensive D with Pyreco or something.
Definitely.
Pair like that. It's a big boy pair.
Yeah, there's some options out there for the Ds. I think, again, that'll be a hot topic going into the Olympics. Who's gonna round out the bottom 2-3 spots for the D core, and now we can go back to the goalies, where we've all agreed it was the biggest question mark of the tournament for Team Canada. Binnington silenced all the questions. Sure, he didn't have the best tournament, but at the same time, we lost to USA 2-1. Like, one empty net goal, sure, 3-1. But, like, nobody's winning a game by scoring one goal in this high level of tournament. So, were they the best goals? Meh. But he also made some big saves on other opportunities that could have been goals. So, you can't fault the guy when we lost, again, 3-1, but one of them was empty net. So, him giving up 2 goals. And then in the finals, well, we've all said it. He's saved the game multiple times in overtime, even before overtime. So there's no question who's earned the start, but there's huge questions of who's going to be 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Because obviously the others 2 didn't play. It's not like they're having great years. So it's completely up in the air for like you're looking at per statistics this year, save percentage, win percentage, all that. The next two guys up are technically Logan Thompson and Mackenzie Blackwood.
Yeah, Darcy Kemper isn't up there too.
Kemper's up there too, but I think that's more of a fluke of anything.
Yeah, he's been inconsistent. You don't know what you're getting.
I don't think there's no chance he's on it. Like I think those two other guys have shown. Like Thompson has shown a lot more, not just this year, but a few years now. And now as a starter, he's clearly doing it. And Blackwood, having gone to Colorado now, he's playing really well. And again, starting next year, how he'll start with Colorado and how he'll finish. Like, there's a lot of time between now until the Olympic team is made.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there'd be a crazy fluke for like Binnington to play like the worst hockey of his life for him to not be the starter. Like that win just made it clear he has to at least. Yeah, he's starting the first game for Canada.
I agree. Joel Hoffer, do you think he's someone they're looking at as a potential? Because he's a young goalie, also in St. Louis.
Okay, I didn't even know who that was. I'm like, are you making something up right now?
No, Joel Hoffer.
No, I know who it is.
Backup in St. Louis, and they say he's an up-and-coming young goalie who has actually done pretty well statistically anyways. I obviously don't know his game that well, but I agree. I think Thompson, Blackwood, two next guys.
We're not bringing a fucking backup to the Olympics.
Could be, though. Like,
no way!
We don't have that many other options.
How many games does he play in the NHL?
So they've been pretty much splitting the net this year, to be honest. Hoffer and Ben. Anyways, I'm just saying,
stretch.
we brought Montembeault this year. Who's absolutely not making it next year. And I agree with you. Bringing a backup is not a great look for our country. But if he can play, who cares? If let's say Ullmark was also American, would the USA say like, oh, we can't bring Ullmark because we're bringing Swayman kind of thing? Like I know they're not playing for the same country, but
last year when they were both in Boston,
2 years ago.
But you wouldn't have said he was a backup.
Well, Swayman was a backup at the time. Right, I feel like that argument stands where Ullmark was clearly your starter and Swayman didn't have the reps of a starter at that time.
Okay, but he was putting up Vezina. They were both putting up Vezina-like numbers.
Anyway,
like Hoffer.
I'm just saying.
But how many
we could be looking at an Ullmark Swayman situation.
I don't know. Binnington wasn't even playing that good for God's sake. So if Hoffer was putting up that good numbers, Binnington would have been like super glued to the bench.
Anyways, I'm just saying your point was more that we're not bringing a backup to the Olympics, whereas Swayman was a backup to Ullmark in there. And his numbers might have been better than what Hoffer's doing right now, but the point still stood that he was a backup to Ullmark's starter, and Hoffer is a backup with starter upside, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So anyways, they're probably not going to bring him. No. But hey, this might be another Hagel situation all over again. Next year, Hoffer's backstop in our country to a gold medal game. Who knows? We'll only find out in 2026 in, was it Milan? So,
highly doubt it. But all right. But I don't know. I just thought now of someone who was a backup who's now a starter. I'm almost certain he's Canadian. Leafs starting goalie Stolarz, isn't he Canadian?
Yeah, I think he is. Yeah,
and he's been putting up decent numbers the last 2 years.
Everyone was a backup at one point until they got the chance to be a starter. So you can't dismiss someone just because they're a backup right now. But I know what you're saying.
Yes, if the team is being made and he's a backup, they're not putting him on the Olympic team.
But I do think it goes to the point that we don't have that many good options in Canada in nets.
Better than we think, but sure, he's
I don't know. We're talking about Hoffer as an option here.
No, you are.
All right, we're gonna get off this Hoffer
first
train.
Fight on the podcast coming up soon. No, kidding.
Well, at least in the Olympics, we have more like round robin games, so like we can afford to like lose a game and be like, okay, we're not riding this goalie.
Yeah.
This format, this Four Nations format, is very unforgiving, right? Like you can't waste a game here. Every game's important. Did you guys like that in this tournament? Like that it was short and sweet, or like does that remove a bit of like the weight? Like winning the Olympics is more of a feat, right? Because it's a longer grind. Well, not a longer grind, more games. Didn't McDavid say that at the end? Like he winning the Olympics is more important. Like this was good, but like there's a bigger goal here. He's already thinking of next year.
Most likely.
So what do you like that form? Do you like this Four Nations format? Just like 4 games, quick in and out.
Just say really quickly. Obviously, Olympics is way bigger than this, but it still was like a really nice thing to win. But no, I don't like how the format was, just for the simple fact that Canada could have had 2 wins and then not gone to the finals. Because Sweden had beat the U.S. in regulation and we beat Finland in overtime,
OT,
they would have made
yeah.
it to the finals, having only won one game. But because they lost 2 games in overtime, that point system made it so that they made it to the finals, which I don't like that at all. Like, that'd be my complaint with it. Whatever, it worked out this one time there. That's how they had to do it to make sure that there couldn't be a tie, I guess. But no, I didn't love that personally, just for that scenario that could have happened, honestly.
No, very good point. And also, I mean, as we've been talking for I don't know how long here, like we haven't even sniffed the conversation of talking about Finland and Sweden because it basically there's not that there's no point, like we can quickly, but I mean there's clearly more important things to talk about because it basically just felt like a rivalry series of Canada versus US.
Yeah.
Sure, the games were fun to watch when it was Finland and Sweden just because there's still elite, like very elite players on those nations. And like obviously we're gonna want to watch as many of this best on best hockey as we can, but the format itself is definitely weird. Like make it a World Cup, bring in everybody. Like Czechia has great teams, Germany they have elite players, and you know what? Like they can have scrappers, not like literal fighters, but just like secondary wave where they can make it hockey games, even though they're most likely gonna lose most games, but they can turn like upset a team. So I think there's just too many good players out there that we just left out. We should have, and I think McDavid or Crosby said it. There's a lot of good players right now who aren't representing their country watching this that should be here, and it's 100% accurate because the format's a little off, like Eric alluded to. The point system strange, and if you're going to do it, just do it properly. Bring in everybody and let us enjoy more of this hockey because this hockey was unbelievable.
Yeah, I think you can still keep this point format, but when there's more teams, it makes more sense. Like in this 4-team format, I didn't really like it. But yeah, and I think it's kind of confirmed that every 2 years where there's not the Olympics, there's going to be a World Cup of hockey.
Until like 2032, I think.
So I like that, where we're going to get international best on best with, like Zach said, more teams, more countries represented, which will just be ultimately better for the world, right? Grow the game. I'm really excited for that. This was great, the one-off for especially the time that everything's happening in the world. Huge.
Yeah.
We got our win. Now we can move on back to the regular season. I think we can kind of segue out of international hockey now, talk about NHL stuff if you guys, unless there's anything else you guys wanted to add, but that was kind of it for me.
Got like one, maybe two things. One, we already talked about this, but just to put it into numbers, I think it was like 16 million people watched the finals, like the most watched game of NHL basically hockey in over 30 years. Like that's including game 7s and everything of all playoffs. So like just goes to show how much it put hockey on the map to so many, mostly Americans who don't know anything about the sport or don't really watch it, but they're all most likely watching it like tooth and nail, like just biting and going nuts for everything just because of that pride factor. And hats off to the players for giving so much, everything they had. I mean, we already talked about that. So yeah, that, and kind of a random thought, like why don't we bring back like the Team North America and Team Europe? Like that was so cool. I don't know why it never got talked about where we should bring it back. Like look at that Team North America now. I think like 10 or 12 of those players were on either Canada or USA. And Europe, like it gives a chance to those weaker, smaller countries to make a good team. So if they have problems with Team Europe, fine. But Team North America was so cool.
It was sick.
Like unbelievable talent. And you could easily make a team every time there's a tournament of under 23 or under 24 players and be competitive. Like they beat Team Sweden in the round robin or whatever it was, in the quarters, I think, in that most electric overtime game of all time.
I was gonna say that's an all-time McKinnon OT winner. Like that's a classic.
And it was back and forth. Like that clip is legendary.
Yeah, I would love to see the North America team come back. A lot of people don't like it for some reason. I don't understand that. Like, hey, obviously also not a huge Matthews guy, but seeing him in that was before he even went to the league too. He was It was
Fresh
before.
drafted.
Yeah, he just got drafted.
Just got drafted.
Him and Matt and McDavid had unreal chemistry. I remember he made like either a pass or he scored from on the ground. It was pretty sick. Or toe drag on the ground.
Knees, yeah.
That was sick. And whenever I see someone with that black North America jersey at a Sens game, it's like, oh, that's an unreal jersey. Yeah, I would love that. We would have like, or North America would have like Bedard, Celebrini, probably Wyatt Johnson, guys like that.
Well, just think about like how like. I hate saying this, but the World Juniors, like a lot of we've had back-to-back USA wins, unfortunately, plus all this disgusting talent that we have on Canada. So like forming teams of those two teams would be competitive given in like the next whatever it is 2 years. So that'd be sick.
A lot of skill on display. That'd be really cool. But yeah, no, I don't think they're gonna do it because especially for Team Europe, like you said. But yeah, why not Team North America? I'd be down.
Missed opportunity in my mind, but whatever.
The only thing I can see is like it's not really a country, so if they win, it's like which country actually won. You know what I mean? Like there's no. It lessens a rivalry, right? Because North America is just it's a made up team at the end of the day. Like you can't. Like it would never happen in the Olympics, right? Like you represent your country, so this would just be a combination of two. So I don't know.
Very true. Like
I can just see them saying that and like, yeah, we're not doing that.
Maybe it's like the Bloods and Crips bandana meme where it unites Canada and U.S. Team North America is what we need right now. Bring us together.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, I mean, anything else on this, or do you guys want to go over to NHL stuff?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I had to say. I mean, easily we could talk about it way more, but I think we got all the major points across for the two teams.
So who are the biggest surprises for you guys right now in the NHL? Like we talked about Hagel. To me, he's I didn't really know Hagel all that well, and fantasy-wise, he's killing it. To me, he's one of the biggest surprises right now. Just like the amount of points he's getting and his play. But yeah, who are your biggest surprises right now in the NHL this year?
Who do you have, Zach?
Yeah. Well, I already talked about this one player who has been just, like I said, I think he's the comeback player of the year, Zach Werenski. It's not like he came out of nowhere, but the fact that he's doing what he's doing is on another level of what he could have been like potentially doing for, like people had him slated really highly as he was getting drafted, and when he came out, as soon as he made it to the NHL, he was a force. And then, you know, other guys have surpassed him, so he kind of just fell through. But this year, he's right back on top in those like top 3 D conversation with him and Makar and Hughes. So he was a huge, like, especially again on the Columbus team. And the next player I'm going to talk about, also on Columbus, Marchenko.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Unbelievable. Another like guy that people were talking about, like, oh, this guy could become something. This guy's a monster. Like, have you seen the clip? I forget. Somebody tries to go hit him, bounces off, gets injured. This guy is a unit. If he wasn't in Columbus, everyone would know who he is. He's got like, he's on pace to score like high 30s, if not 40s.
Yeah.
Probably in the mid to high 30s this year. And he's just a player. Like, man, if I don't like Columbus is keep holding on to this guy, they'd be super dumb to get rid of this guy, trade him, whatever. This guy is a weapon, and good for him. Good on him. He's a big reason, again, like Werenski, why Columbus is fighting for a playoff spot, which I never thought I would have said at the start of this year. So he's been unbelievable.
No, they're definitely like a lottery team going into the year. Is what we're looking at with them. And I love that Marchenko. I wasn't even thinking of him, but it's true. He's literally looking like he'll be like a point-a-game player this year. Potential keeper in our fantasy league. Chevy's something to think about maybe. He's like, I feel like what some Sens fans thought Igor Sokolov was.
It's like some delusional fans.
Similar bill. I never thought. It's true. Like, I did not think Marchenko would be this kind of upside, offensive upside. I remember him last year. He had a sneaky, pretty good year. But like this is on another level of a breakout season. He might be the number one, really. I do think Hagel is really up there where he had a big year last year, but maybe people thought like, oh, it's a fluke. But I think he's risen up out of the opportunity of Stamkos not being there. Obviously, they brought in Gensel too, so a bit of change of scenery, and he's really taken off. Shout out him and Werenski, who have been leading my fantasy team when I need guys to pick it up. And I'm going to just stick on my team here. I feel like Dylan Strome having a really good year is a surprise, where he's someone you looked at as kind of a bust, really, with given where he was drafted at the number 3 position. Zach has a lot of experience dealing with Strome in games. He was always someone who was looked at as potentially overrated. Moved around a bit in his career, didn't take off in Arizona like he thought it would. Had one good year in Chicago, and then in Washington seems to have found a home. And he also could be, now he's tailed off a bit with the injury to Ovi. So I'm not ready to say this guy's like, point-a-game player at all. But it is surprising, and surprising to see how well he's kind of become maybe a Backstrom to Ovi's Ovi. And taking advantage of an opportunity and having a good season for himself. So, you know what? Good for him, I'm sure he's dealt with a lot of hate online, just given draft pedigree, not living up to expectations. You do like to see someone like that like make a name for themselves with all that pressure and find a home in Washington, which I think he has.
Absolutely, good point. And like, just to clarify for people who don't know, the draft was Connor McDavid, Jack Eichel, Dylan Strome. So very tough to follow up those two guys, but he was in that conversation. And then like right after that, Mitch Marner was drafted. Rantanen was drafted. Like, this is arguably the best draft. Werenski, arguably the best draft of all time, and he went number 3. So, but yes, great pick. I hate saying anything good about that guy. I hate him, but he's definitely found a home, and he's playing a fantastic role for Washington. That's all I can say.
Yeah,
and good for him.
I thought you were gonna go the Harley route, Matt, but I think that's because we already hyped him up there. Yeah. Any negative surprise? Like, if we stick to our fantasy teams, like, is there anybody on your team who you were expecting more out of this season? They kind of are underwhelming, Matt. Is there anyone like that for you?
Well, I know who Zach's going to say, but no, my team's been surprisingly, of course, the underwhelming player on my team is Carter Verhaeghe for Florida. It seems like I always do this thing where I keep someone that's hot and then he doesn't do well the following year. Luckily, I have guys that are very surprising this year. Obviously, having a healthy Eichel has carried my team, but like Verhaeghe's a disappointment. Kind of like White Johnson for you, Zach. I know that probably hurts, but a couple surprises just in the league in general. First of all, I wouldn't even know who Marchenko was. I wouldn't even know who he is unless it was for fantasy hockey. Because I'm like, holy shit, how many points does he have? I wouldn't have a clue. Nobody talks about him. He's on Columbus. Surprises for me would be like in the league, like Martin Netchas. I never knew he was that point producer good. Like, he's a fun to watch. Carolina's a really fun team to watch actually this year. Very tough to play against. Now he's on Colorado. Good for him. Lucas Raymond, I knew of him. I didn't realize like he was in the same draft year as Stützle. Like, he's an up and comer. He's really fitting into his own in Detroit. Detroit's, I think they're winning today, or they've won today. Like, they're in 8th right now. I think maybe going to pass the Sens today. He's always done top minutes for Detroit anyways. He's a big surprise. And what was the last player? Random ass player on Washington, Protas, or whatever you say his name. Don't even know who that is, but I picked him up and he's doing well for me. So that's all that's who I'll mention. Devin Taves, I wanted him to. Devin Taves is a great player, but like, he just doesn't get as many points as I thought he would. But he's not a minus. He doesn't do minuses for me anymore. So my team is surprisingly like, all the players are playing as good as they can, and that's why I'm where I am. But like, I don't even know if that's sustainable. But Zach, tell me about your team. Your surprises and disappointments.
So definitely the Johnson pick. So I picked him really early, and it was a huge gamble because I'm like, I could have picked guys that would have statistically have better odds to be closer to a point
like Eichel.
But he just had the slowest of starts. He's been picking it up really, but like, now it's over. It's way too late in the season for me to really care. But he's maybe at like 0.08 or 0.80 points per game. So like, it just was way too slow of a start for him. But he's picked it up a lot. So yeah, disappointing with the players that left on the board. But I actually, when you mentioned like you thought of me, I thought you were talking about Fox, which I already mentioned about how bad he's played for USA. He like. Quick note for the people in our league, like he's going to be up for grabs next year. He's not a keeper. He's been a keeper of mine for a few years because he always has been a top like 3-point getter, if not 2. Like he's been in the top of the league for points as a defenseman. So he's been great this year, like not even close. So I don't think he still has a goal yet in the year. Like he's got, he might have one. Like look it up, but
Seriously?
he probably does.
Wow.
But honestly, it took forever. I don't even know if I honestly don't think he has one. Like, all right, moment of truth here.
Yeah, there's 4.
Ah, yes,
4
4.
goals. He has 44 points still. Like, it's more than I was
No,
expecting,
but
to be
no,
honest.
he's like what ranked like 150 or something. 120. Yeah, he's gone.
But what he's used to doing,
Yeah, exactly.
like it's a huge disappointment.
Exactly. So him, those two definitely like disappointing. But then on the flip side, what I was expecting, or maybe hoping, not expecting of what Wyatt Johnson would do, Jesper Bratt has done and then some. This guy, I think he's ranked like 12 in the league right now, or 15,
Crazy.
16, 16.
Now,
yeah, like for fantasy in our league, he's been, spoiler alert, I'm keeping him. Like, he's gross. Especially with that high offense team of New Jersey. He's going to be doing this for years to come. And he's really good. Like, it was one of those Swedish players that was good in the tournament, but not fantastic. I think just all of Sweden, really, you could sum them up as good, not great that whole tournament. But Bratt has been unbelievable. And again, another guy, most of the guys I'm talking about just so happen to be in the Four Nations, which I don't even know if I drafted this guy. I might have picked him up or I drafted him late, was Dylan Larkin.
Yeah.
He was really good for the U.S.
For sure.
Like, he didn't get that many goals.
Yeah.
Like, he got the one big goal against Canada in the round robin, but he was noticeable out there. Really good player, and he's having a great year. Again, not a guy that puts up tons of points, but he's been very steady. He's probably in, like, the top 60 or 70 in the league. So that's a good fantasy player. But no, he's and whenever I do watch the mostly it's just when Detroit plays Ottawa that I watch him. But he's noticeable out there. He's a really good player. Like he'll be back on the USA team without a doubt. And
great
he's been a good
skater.
surprise,
Yeah.
They're just like I don't know. I have too many disappointments to count on my team, so I'm just bummed. I don't even know my. Actually, I will say, at the start of the year, I picked up Barbashev, who was playing with Eichel before his injury. This guy was a weapon. Got injured since he's been back. Horrible. I don't even know why I still have him. I should drop him. And I picked up Holloway, who's having an extremely sneaky, very sneaky kill in the game in St. Louis. So good on him. Like, he'd be a huge surprise. Like, we're talking about Hoffer making Team Canada. Might as well throw Holloway on the wing. That's more realistic anyways.
Oh, I can't wait for Hoffer to make the Olympic roster. But yeah, Holloway 40 points and like playing like a depth role, probably second or third line, at most second line.
Yeah.
But no, he's killing it. That's a big loss for Edmonton too, when they lost him to the offer sheet there. But no, someone to monitor for sure going forward for Hockey Canada.
Like, that's a huge stretch. But it actually did make me think two other guys on that team, Kyrou and Thomas, who haven't had a down year, didn't make the team. Those guys, like, their upside is crazy. And they're in those prime years. They're like 25, 26 in those age groups where they could start or finish the year really strong, start next year. They could easily make the team over some of those older guys that we talked about because those two guys can fly.
Yeah.
They are super fast skaters with high skill. Like, didn't Kyrou win the fastest skater a couple of All-Star? Yeah, so, like, imagine him on an Olympic size flanking friggin' McDavid or someone. Like,
he could
again, not to just keep going
Kyrou
back to
McDavid
the international, but it's always on my mind.
I like that call for sure. And again, it's forgotten guys because they're not having big years right now. We're not really talking about them, but no, I like that. So for me, disappointments, I don't have that many personally, but there is like one for me that just sucks is Kaprizov just keeps getting injured. Hate to see that. He's obviously someone I'm not going to get rid of for the foreseeable future. But you do start to wonder, like, is this something I'm signing up for every year where he gets to play like maybe 60, 70 games, puts up numbers when he's healthy, but like, you can't ignore the injury factor at this point. Like, this one, they just said he's going to be out even longer than they initially anticipated, so too bad there. And my other disappointment would be someone I kept as a rookie last year being my rookie this year, Logan Stankoven, which obviously you can't expect like 70 points from a rookie there, really, but I did think he'd do a bit better this year based on how he was playing at the end of last year and the playoffs. He was a big player, but it also goes for my theory that guys who end up coming on a team late in the year, then go on a deep playoff run and do very well there, they normally get identified as guys that like, oh, watch out for him next year when it's his full rookie season. He's going to go off. It rarely happens. I feel like
You're thinking of Caulfield?
Caulfield was a prime example there where when he joined Montreal, when they made to the finals somehow,
he was like weapon.
he was unreal, and he had a horrendous
call.
rookie season.
Yeah.
I can't think of other examples. Like that's the one I personally love to go to every time I think of this, but I feel like it's a thing. So Stankoven, kind of a disappointment. Probably won't be keeping him. I'll look to find someone else I can keep and be my rookie next year, but we'll see.
But a few like guys that surprised.
Well, I said like Strome, Hagel, Wierenski,
but
Logan
on
Cooley.
the-
Logan Cooley. Like I'm surprised he's injured right now there, but he's having a great second year. Another guy I'll just throw out there that's not on my team, but Dylan Gunther. Like
Oh my God,
he was kind of pegged as a breakout candidate, but I didn't think he would do as well as he's doing this year. I wanted to draft him, but then your dad snagged him. I think that's like maybe the best pick of the draft, like for value wise.
Yeah.
But then he got injured, so that kind of sucked for him there. But
Like Olympic watch, Genther?
I mean, who knows? Maybe down the road for sure.
Yeah, down the road for sure.
Or Team North America at the very least. But Genther's he's been a nice surprise this year for sure for Utah. But I think that's it for me. My other guys are kind of established, so I wasn't really super shocked that they're doing well. My decors disappointed me overall though. Like Montour, Sergachev, and Pietrangelo. Not that you can have like crazy expectations for them, but
Well, Montour for sure signing his big ticket and hasn't really been producing anywhere near he did with Florida, which that's often a risk when a guy signs a big ticket. New team, you don't know. And same thing with Sergachev, first year with
Utah.
and I think he was like again, D's in fantasies is so tough. Like I have Faber.
Oh my God.
Faber's unbelievable player, but it doesn't correlate to being a great fantasy player.
Yeah.
You look like a guy like Heiskanen. Every year, you're like, man, this guy's unbelievable. He's one of the best Ds in the world. He's not going to be the best fantasy player. McAvoy's one of those guys. Like, there's so many fantastic Ds.
Yeah.
Ds are tough to draft for fantasy.
Yeah,
Every
big
time. That's why I used to always keep Fox. And I'm like, because he was like a sure thing, like in the top like 80 of the league. But it's so hard to judge.
Yeah.
Even like Sanderson, for example, he's an unbelievable player. Is he gonna pop off at one point? Like he's obviously gonna get drafted every year. I feel like someone is just gonna strike gold the right year.
Yeah.
Maybe next year he gets picked in whatever, like that 8th round, which I feel like is where he goes in our league, maybe 6 tops, and it puts up 40 points. He gets drafted in the same spot the year after that, goes off for 70.
Yeah.
And then from that point off, he doesn't look back, or maybe he never really gets to be a 70-point guy. Who knows?
Yeah.
We also have Yakimchuk coming up. Maybe he's the Harley to our Sanderson, who's going to take away that PP1 spot and really be the offensive D. You never know. But yeah, Sanderson's going to be an enigma for me. Like, I don't know if he's going to take that step to be a truly offensive D, but man, he looked good in the States in that one game, and has looked really good at times this year offensively.
Oh, absolutely.
In spurts. Like he went through a stretch of like hadn't scored in like 20-some games.
Yeah.
And then he scored like 2 or 3 games in a row.
And then he went on like on a 7-game point streak too. Yeah, no, he's been a little all over the map this year. But I do think like he's also like really young. I think he's gonna pop off like you said one year, and I think he'll like maybe it'll be kind of like what Carlson did with Ottawa, where one year he just like went off, had like an insane amount of points, and then like a few years of just like having like a lot of points, but not like the same high. Like maybe he peaked and then had another year where he like Carlson's completely different there, but in that realm where one year he's gonna pop off and go really high, and then kind of just wither back to like a high point production D because he has too much potential and skill to be a point guy that he won't be able to not do it.
Yeah.
And as this team is going up.
Yeah. Every year, like when we do our fantasy draft, I always ask myself the same question. Like, the old watches, some of them are going to drop off, the old players, the old dogs, and then there's going to be up and comers. There's always a new like Hagel or a new, anyways, up and comers. But like what surprised me this year is like Shifley still got it, putting up unreal points. No, I didn't expect that. Ovechkin.
Yeah.
The man is like defies time. It's unbelievable to witness. Like we are witnessing hockey history. It's beautiful to watch. But like every year, I'm like, do we stick with these players? Like I could have kept Larkin last year because you had a good season last year. But I'm like, he's only a center. Okay, well we'll keep somebody else. But like still very well. Larkin's not an old guy, but the Shifley still surprised me. It's fun. I like that about hockey is like you'll get. It's not like predictable and cookie cutter all the time. You have to take chances. That's why I love fantasy hockey, right? Yeah. So, and who's going to be the next Hagel or the next? I forget if Jarvis is doing well fantasy wise, but like I think guys like that. Okay, the Marchenkos. Who's going to be the next Marchenko? Like I love that. And every year we never predict fully everyone, and they get drafted. Like they're undrafted, and you scoop them up right away. I love seeing that every year. Makes it exciting.
So just on the Shifley point, so we did get quite a few submissions on this topic, so I'll just say my wife Andy, who's also in our league, she said Marky Mark S, aka Mark Shifley, who she was able to pick up off an unfortunate drop by a GM in our league, former GM in our league, but so Shifley was a big pickup, and he's like you said, you don't know what you're gonna get out of him, and this year like he's looking again like a point per game player, which he has been at least one time in the league, maybe twice. But and to your point, Matt, about keeping a strict center, I feel like unless it's like McDavid, Crosby, or McKinnon, Eichel for you, like guys like that, you don't necessarily keep because you can get those strict centers late in the draft or even pick them up. Like they tend to not be prioritized. Everyone wants like, I need to get a D who can get me like 60 some points. Winger. Strict centers, they tend to fall, and you hope like a Shifley surprises you and goes off and is helping Andy push to fight for the number one position in the league. So he's been huge for her, so big pickup. I'll just go to the next one. So the next one was from the home. Do you want to say something about Shifley?
No. I don't know why. I just thought of this player, but who unexpected before. He might get mentioned, so I just want to make sure I mention him first. Tom Wilson. We didn't even talk about him for maybe being on Canada. Like, obviously everyone knows the physical aspect of his game, but he's putting up insane numbers too for like what he does already. I don't think he'll be on Team Canada next year. He might be, but he has to get like some recognition here because he's doing way better than anybody would have thought production-wise. Like I have him fantasy, that's why I thought of him, and he's like, there's not a game where I don't play him. He's a lock. He's not like obviously not getting goals every game, but it feels that way just because of what his production has been this year. Huge surprise.
Yeah, no, Wilson is really completely. You look at where that guy started as being as one of the most hated players, rats in the league, where he was getting like 200 penalty minutes in his the first few years in his career. People are looking at him like we're talking about Matt Rempe these days. Like there's no place for a guy like this in the league. He was getting suspended every other week, it seemed like. But he's fully reinvented himself and become one of the premier power forwards in the league. Exactly. You talk about the Kachucks. I think Tom Wilson's the next name you think of when you think of skilled power forward who impacts the game, plays physical, scores goals, creates space for guys on the ice out there. No. Willie was actually not mentioned by anybody, so a good pick there. We got something from the homie Brandon, aka Hip Hop Fiend 85. He talked about something a bit different. PK Subban putting the NBA on blast and speaking the truth. So I asked for a clarification here, and he said,
"You didn't see the clip?"
Well, I saw the clip after he sent me the clip.
I don't know anything about that.
So basically, I guess he talked about how guys aren't really. Well, just the difference, I guess, between.
I can talk about it if you want. He basically said how, like, for the NHL, like all the players bought in, and it's not really a sport that you can like just go through the motions. And you saw it in the Four Nations how everyone was going 200 miles an hour and like really cared about it. And where in the NBA, it just seems like right now guys are going through the motion and nobody cares. Obviously, he talked about it like for a solid like 6 to 8 minutes, like a little monologuing here.
Yeah.
And with like, it went viral on like Twitter and stuff, so it was all over. But it's a great clip. Everyone should watch it. And that's a funny shout out though. Respect it.
Yeah. So the next one's from the homie Dill Brindamore. So our goalie in my hockey team. Shout out Brindy. So his was the parity in the Atlantic Division has been a welcome surprise.
Oh, yeah.
So how the Atlantic really, other than, like, is anyone not Buffalo, yeah, there you go. Everyone has kind of been Montreal surged
still
for a
in
bit
there,
though,
still in
right?
there, yeah.
Like I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs, but they did make it a bit interesting where they got Montreal fans like Dill actually, he's a Habs fan. They got interested and they were like, okay, maybe we have a shot. You look at the construction of their roster, like that's not a playoff team.
No.
They get waxed if they make the playoffs. But you know, it's cool for them to be in the mix. Detroit's definitely put in we're there. Like I think we belong in the playoffs the way we're playing.
Definitely.
And then Boston, we're starting to see that tail off that we've talked about for how long now.
Yeah.
Are they finally going to start dropping off? I think it's starting to happen now. So
Yeah.
no, it's been real. And then obviously you got the big dogs like Florida, Toronto, hate to say it, regular season, and then Tampa's
coming back into form. They went through a stretch where
I
they
see
were
that.
horrible, but now
Yeah.
they're picking up.
Yeah,
again.
and people saying like, oh, Ottawa could catch Tampa. Our rosters aren't even. You can't compare our two rosters. Like Tampa's a playoff team. Like maybe we can somehow pass in the playoffs, but in the standings. But team wise, I think Tampa's a better team than us. No questions
I still think
asked.
they have us for sure. I think it's closer, but they still have us right now.
Yeah.
Just based on experience too, like Point, Kucherov, Gensel, like those are all cup winners, whereas us, like our guys are still younger and they don't have that experience, not even close. So
so the next one is from the homie Nick Seguin. He said 3 guys we've already mentioned: Brandon Hagel, Zach Werenski, Dylan Strome. So
Okay,
kind of
nice.
down the line, all of our picks. But he also said that Washington is a big surprise.
very true. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Everyone, yeah.
Who expected this?
It's unbelievable. Yeah. Not me. And every
Dominant.
time I'm like, they're gonna start falling off. Have yet to happen.
They're in second in the league right now. Like, we're almost at playoffs here, and I'm honestly really happy for them. For Ovi, where it would become this narrative of all they have now is the Ovi goal chase. That's all they've got. But no, they retooled, made a lot of moves in the offseason that raised eyebrows. Like getting Pierre-Luc Dubois, I thought was a massive mistake. What else did they do? They made a few different weird moves. Like they brought in Mangiapane.
I don't really know their team that well.
Chikrin came in.
Yeah.
Like they made a few big trades and
playing well.
signings like that, and everything's really worked out for them. Protas has stepped up.
Yeah.
Connor McMichael has stepped
McMichael.
up.
Oh my God! Wow, he's playing really good.
Yeah, they're really getting.
Carlson stepped up too, like having a good season.
Yeah, he
decent.
is. So no, good for them. I like to see that.
Obviously, Thompson's playing at a level that we didn't
Yes.
expect.
Yeah,
he's
and
playing unbelievable.
They just brought him in too. He was
Yeah.
another addition. So it was kind of
Yeah.
like a ragtag group of guys that all came in. Like I don't think Mangiapane's doing that much, but still, just saying it was a big turnover and a facelift, I guess, for this team. And me looking at it on paper, I'm like, this team is going to be horrible in next season, and proved me completely wrong. I think a lot of people too. So thanks, Nick. The next one was from the homie Justin Mochtinger. He said, our boy Jack Werenski. And then
Did he write Jack?
ZJACK. So I'm just going to explain this. This is a super random reference that he's the only person I know who knows this that I know. Werenski's draft video, like that's how the manager said his name. Jack Werenski. And he brought this up to me one time, like, man, as if you know this, and I remember it as well.
Oh my God, that's
pretty crazy.
hilarious.
So yeah, he said Werenski, and then Washington and Winnipeg as well.
Yeah,
I agree, Winnipeg's a surprise.
Too, definitely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
They're in first in the
they're
league.
first, and also like remember that start? Didn't they have one loss in their first? I forget the numbers exactly, but they were just winning everything. It was ridiculous.
Yep.
Definitely a surprise too. You wouldn't think those two teams are number 1 and 2.
No, definitely
Yeah.
not. Curious to see how Winnipeg does in the playoffs, right? Because now they've done this a few years where they do really well in the regular season, and then playoffs, like Hellebuck especially, does not show up as well as he does in the regular season. So
Because there's a lot of parity in the East, but the West team still has a lot of top dogs.
yeah,
Like you look at Edmonton, Vegas,
Mhm.
Dallas,
Colorado.
Like those are 4 teams, obviously, like excluding Winnipeg. So those are 4 teams with a lot of recent playoff experience and like a lot of high end skill, like just complete teams. So it's gonna be tough for them as soon as the playoff starts. I don't know who's 8 right now, so maybe that round would be something.
Yeah.
Maybe like is Minnesota up there?
No, Minnesota's a top 3 team in the Central. I don't think they'll drop off to a wild card spot.
Okay.
So Colorado's like that's a tough.
Yeah, like if
Edmonton could play Colorado
Oy.
if playoffs started today. Like that's what you get for finishing
Who's
first in the
8th?
Pacific. Vancouver. So I think they could beat Vancouver,
Oh,
Winnipeg,
yeah.
and then Calgary's the other team who's right there. I think the 8th spot is going to be an easy team to beat.
Yeah, that's the thing with the West. It's not like in the East where things are much tighter. The West is like they've got a lot of good top teams, and then it's just
Yeah, like I could see.
true.
I think Colorado's gonna pass Minnesota.
Yeah.
Who's gonna drop, especially if they don't have Kaprizov. That hurts. And then Edmonton, I think they'll hold on to the top spot.
Yeah.
Edmonton against Minnesota, and then Winnipeg against Vancouver. Calgary doesn't matter, or Utah.
like Utah. It'd be a cool story if Utah clawed their way in their first year as a team. That'd be sick.
Yeah, I'd be pumped for them. The Mammoth would love that for them. So yeah, thanks, Justin. The next one is from the homie R.A. Ron Antoine. He said Sidney Crosby is his big surprise. Every year, just keeps doing it.
That's a weird take. Big surprise? Come on, we're talking about Sid the Kid. It's not like he fell off. Come on, Ron, figure it out.
Maybe it's just the take of like, Father Time is
I'm
undefeated.
just kidding. No, that's fine.
Yeah. So our last one is from the homie Riley Finnessy. So this was Washington again. So I mean, we don't really need to go over this. Well, we can spend more time on Crosby if we want. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if it is surprising. I don't think so. Like he's given us no reason to think that he is gonna drop off. I agree with you. Like he trains like an animal with the dog himself out in Halifax or Cole Harbour. And he takes it like honestly. Andy and I were talking about this yesterday. Crosby is someone who I was not a fan of. Both of us weren't a fan of earlier in his career. We were always Ovechkin people. Named our cat after Ovi, for God's sakes. And you just simply cannot not respect what Crosby is doing now
100%.
in the game. Like he's an all-time legend, Canadian icon for the game of hockey. It's watching how he's changed his game, still doing it at the highest level. It's unreal. He's lived up to expectations too. Like the pressure this guy came in
When he was like 13 years old.
and lived up to it and
Then
exceeded
some.
the expectations. And there was a time too where Crosby, like with his injury concern, people didn't think he was ever going to be what he
Of course.
became.
He was almost out of the league, like in like 2013-14 when he had huge concussion problems.
Yeah.
And just to think what his numbers would be like if he didn't lose all those, like he was playing like half seasons, missing almost, like he missed so much hockey.
Yeah.
He would be even bigger than what he is, which is insane to think because he's Captain Canada. Like there's so many things.
Yeah.
And to your point, for like, it's what you mentioned, like when you and Andy were younger, you preferred Ovi. You don't appreciate like the outside things, like the work ethic and all those things. When you're younger, you're just there watching the game, and Ovi was an electric factory when he joined the league right away, making the most unbelievable goals. Not that Crosby wasn't electric, obviously he was, but Ovi, like I remember too, like oh my god, like every game you wanted to watch this new kid, and he was insane. But now, like as you're older, you understand more about how like the hockey world works, or just how life works. Like it's not just they just play hockey. Like there's something going around as well, and everything he puts into it is just makes him what he is, which is an icon.
I also think he was also like crybaby Crosby. Like I think that
too.
factor with
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But and now you just have to respect what he's become. But yeah, no, good points for sure. I agree. Those were submissions for the surprises. Also, I'd put up a poll about like what are your thoughts on Four Nations? Like, do you want this every year? Blah blah. Like no one said they don't want something like this every year, but some people did say like, yeah, I just want Olympics going forward. But overall, everyone thinks it was a success. So I just want to thank everybody for participating in the poll and submitting an answer to the prompt. So yeah.
I mean, it is just quickly too. Like we did have a huge break like it was 9 years since the last best on best. So now that we're gonna have the Olympics next year and then some World Cups, it will be interesting to see, like, all right, now we're gonna get like an overdose of it. We're gonna see a lot more of it. Is it gonna lose its flavor a little? Because we were all like, poor word choice here, but we were all horny for this tournament, and like now we're gonna be like, all right, Olympics next year, World Cup in 2 years, Olympics again in another 2. So it's like, is the value going to go down? Do we going to be like, all right, we can pump the brakes on the World Cup and just go for the Olympics? So it'll be interesting to see how that works.
Now, there's two sides of the coin, right? Like, can one have too much sex? Is it like too much world play? That might be a good thing, right? Like, we get it every year. You know,
it's so
true. Going off your analogy, Zach. Going off your analogy, Zach. We were horny for this one.
You nailed it too, because it is true. Like,
unintended.
Yeah. Oh God, that's so good. God, that's good.
Oh man, this is why you tune in, folks. This is for stuff like this.
Absolutely.
The analytical talk, and then but
the analogy.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that's kind of all I had on the hockey. Honestly, I can't wait to see what the playoff push looks like for Ottawa. Like, that's what my main focus is now. I just hope Ottawa makes it in the playoffs. We deserve to make it. I think we've had so many long years of, we're almost there. Like, our guys are getting experience. We pushed late in the year. We learned what it takes to win. We've made changes to the systems and coaching staff and everything. Brady, man, gave us that tease of what he can do in the playoffs, and when it matters, he steps up, and hopefully that can galvanize our group and motivate them to make it there, so that he and the rest of the boys can give us that same energy when it matters. I've said it a bunch of times, I'll say it again. I feel like if we match up with Toronto, that's a team we can beat in the playoffs. Matthews, when the time comes to step up and lead your team to victory, proved that he cannot be that guy. Obviously, Brady was on the same team as him, but he also wasn't the captain. And Brady did elevate his game in the gold medal game. Big goal.
Just the whole tournament he did.
Whole tournament. Yeah. So I think if we match up with Toronto, that's a team we could beat. So would love that. Florida, I think, is going to be a tougher beast to take on.
Yeah.
And actually, watching the Four Nations, a lot of the play made me think of how Florida plays hockey. With like that north-south, chip it in, get it. Obviously, Bennett in there. Like you said, the guy is like friggin' playoff prototypical player that you
100%,
want.
Yeah.
100%. And then you got like, we don't need to break through all this.
We could just go right back into it.
But one guy, because we didn't talk about this team at all, but just because you brought up the Sens, quick shout out, our boy Mutton Paulo putting himself out there on the map.
It's true.
Unbelievable. Like, it wasn't like he was unbelievable in this tournament, but just for a guy who basically played the whole year in the A, then played like under 20 games in the NHL, to step into this tournament and not look out of place. Let's just pray to God he's gonna take that Hamonic spot. This conversation has been going on for far too long. Get that guy out of here. He can stay around the locker room for some reason. They love him. I'm sure he's a great guy, great human being. But Montpaulo has earned that spot. JBD, stay injured. And let's just roll with it, Sens. Let's get in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We need it. God, do we need it? We need to go in playoffs. I'm sick and tired of talking, there's next year.
Yeah.
Screw next year. Let's get in the mother-loving playoffs.
Yeah.
I'm going to be at every game.
I'm ready to bust out the face paint again. I'm going all out at those games.
Have to. Please.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And if we had more time, we could get into the Sens. And honestly, that might be a conversation for another episode, because I could dissect the Sens right now. So, but yeah, we have to make the playoffs. That's all I'm going to say.
Agreed. Do you guys have anything you wanted to recommend off the top, like stuff you've been watching, reading, listening to, anything?
I'll go quickly. A couple of shows. Like, I've been rewatching Modern Family on Disney Plus. It's like my filler show right now when I have downtime. Like, have a half hour before the Sens game starts, I'll put Modern Family on. Also on Amazon Prime, Pop Culture Jeopardy. Surprisingly fun. A lot easier to answer with like movie, TV, and stuff. Anyways, Pop Culture Jeopardy has been a fun watch. Very easy.
Cool.
Very easy to digest.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. Actually, I would like that because it's fun doing like little trivia, basically.
Agreed.
Yeah.
No, I don't really have anything. Like I've been watching. Actually, I started the Spider-Man show on Disney Plus.
Okay, nice.
Enjoying that. I've watched like 3 or 4 episodes. So that's good. But no, like obviously, the last couple of weeks has just been hockey. So. No, I'll let you. I'll let you take care of this section.
Well, I was going to talk about Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man,
Mm-hmm.
actually, Matt. I don't know if you've started up, but definitely a recommend where I finished the whole show.
Okay.
All the episodes are out now. I'm done with it. One that also gets better as you go through it. Like, if you're not that hooked in the first few episodes, keep it going because especially at the end of the season, it gets very good. I'm not ready to say it's as good as X-Men 97 because it still does just stick to and which is fine, base level. Like, this is a superhero fun show, you know. There's not, which with X-Men there's a lot of political stuff in there and questions about life in general. I thought they had a lot of deeper meanings in X-Men 97, but Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man lives up to its name. It's a fun show, a lot of cool action in there. The Spider-Man character is really good. He's really like a childish, youthful man. They always nail Spider-Man. I feel like Miles Morales even, and then obviously Tom Holland. They just don't miss, and they did not in this show as well. So there's that. I'm also watching an anime show right now called Solo Leveling. Curtis said it was one of his favorites of last year. So now season 2 is out. I think this is a show that even if you're not a big anime person, you could enjoy. I'll just give a quick rundown. It's in a world where there are portals that appear and then monsters come out of them, and then there are task force built to take those monsters out. And every hunter who's a part of a guild to go kill the monsters is assigned a rank. So from E to S is the highest rank. And our main character is an E rank hunter. So he's the weakest. His name is the weakest hunter in the whole world. Like, that's what he's known as around his peers. And then his journey is and once you have a rank, you can't move up. Like, you're stuck. You're branded that the rest of your life. But his character, what makes him different is he's kind of playing his own game where he has the opportunity to level up. And as the show goes on, he trains, does side quests, and is becoming quite powerful now where I'm at. Season 2 has been unbelievable. Like, I'm loving this show. 20-minute episodes. You can watch it in English if you want. I watch in Japanese, but super, super cool action. Would recommend. Might be a top 10 show for me once the season's out. We'll see what else comes out this year. But yeah, fun show. That's all I'll recommend. 2 animated shows, but yeah, really good stuff, both of them.
Good stuff. Never heard of it, so awesome.
Yeah. Anything else? I know you said nothing, Zach. Yeah, do you have anything, Matt, you want to recommend? Or
I can save it for next time. Nothing like hockey and work's dominated my last couple of weeks, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just throw a couple of things. I'm going to forget about these things. I just want to get them out there. So last episode, I talked about Fourth Wing, the book. I read the second one already in that series, Iron Flame. So I'll just say that. I've been reading a lot more recently. A lot of fun. Library, recommend. Use it to get books. But yeah, the second book in this Fourth Wing series, really good. Expand on the universe. I actually like this second book more than the first one. So, Matt, if you want a fantasy series, get on the Fourth Wing wave. It's going to be a TV show down the road. Already putting together an audition tape that I'm going to submit. And we're going to see where that goes. And so, yeah, Iron Flame, second book. And then speaking of second books in a series, The Dark Forest, out of the 3-Body Problem. I recommended this book last year, and I actually put a hold on it. I just got this book. It's a sci-fi series. This is a complicated series, to be honest. Like, at times it's hard to imagine what's going on, but I'm really enjoying it, that being said. Like, it's really a futuristic show where there's interplanetary warfare going on between Earth and this alien faction that's coming to Earth. They're like 4 light years away from the planet and from planet Earth, but they're getting closer, and like they're making advancements on their end and getting closer. The war is coming, like the real war is coming. Really liking it. They made this into a show on Netflix called The 3-Body Problem. It's actually the showrunners from Game of Thrones, so I would steer clear from that. D.B. Weiss and David Benioff, I believe. So the books are really good, though. I'm enjoying the second book. I'm almost done with it. So
has the show? It's out on Netflix?
Season 1 is out on Netflix.
Reviews?
Yeah. I think it's not bad, actually. I think pretty good. So yeah, maybe check out the show, see if you're interested, and then read the book if you want. But yeah, The Dark Forest is the second book. So yeah, that'd be what I would recommend. Yes. Yeah, I guess that would be all then for recommendations segment. Yeah, man, Zach, thanks a lot for joining us. A lot of fun. Obviously, we could have kept going for
Oh my
at least
God.
another half hour.
Oh,
I feel
yeah.
like, but that's always the case when you come on. So, any final? We'll have to do this again soon. Any final notes for the listeners?
Yeah, like I love coming out here and talking with you fellas about the sport I love. It's always great conversations. Can get heated at times apparently, and that's how you know you care and how you know you're into it. But no, so much fun. Thanks again for having me, and I'll be back.
Definitely. Hopefully, playoff preview when the Sens are in there. We've got our position. Maybe that'll be an episode back-to-back hockey again. So we'll see. But yeah, Matt, obviously killer as per usual. Any final notes for the listeners?
Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode. Zach, thank you for coming on. Love hearing you talk about hockey. Same as you, Eric. Both of you, like I could listen to you all day talk about. You guys know so much. We could have talked about about the Sens another hour, for God's sakes, and hopefully we can do that in another episode. But yeah, thanks for coming on, Zach, and thank you everybody for listening and submitting answers to your Instagram story, and really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well said, Matt. So yeah, thanks a lot, everybody, for listening. Stay tuned for episodes dropping every 2 Mondays. Continue to just enjoy now, back in the swing of things, regular season hockey, playoff push, and yeah, peace.